And so Lauren is joining us as a new person in the office who's getting exposure to many different agencies. So Lauren, you want to give us a little background on who you are?
Yeah, that's it. Well, it's great to meet you all. Yeah, so I just started at the Attorney General's office here in the education section with Abby. And prior to this, I was actually working in education, some at the UVA Alumni Association. And then prior to that, I was working at a law firm in Roanoke, Virginia. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to join the office here and excited to work with you all and you know, to help contribute in that kind of way.
Great, thank you. And
Yeah.
you're always welcome to come for a visit if you find yourself back in the Roanoke area.
Yeah.
You know, we're a good hour from you, but still, we'd love to host you sometime.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, great. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and we'll get through this agenda on a timely basis today. So first, I'd like to see if I can get a motion to approve the minutes of the August 2024 meeting of the executive committee. A motion,
That's for you.
Yep, that's been sent. And Lisa second. I saw the hand come up over there. Okay, thank you for that. And then I'll go straight into the chair's report. So a couple of things that I asked Joe to put on the meeting for today that some of them come out of the discussion we had during Joe's review and in general from the executive committee and some other board members who have rung me up to talk about it. First of those is talking about the 360-degree review process and how we might get at that and improve that considerably from where we are. It certainly has been a learning experience for us as an organization. I'm going to come back to the committee with a recommendation of a couple of online approaches that can be read and researched by our HR lead here and have her go through it. I talked to her briefly about that when I was down for a festival about a month ago. So she's aware that we really want to take a slightly more professional approach to this, and we wanted to take that deeper into the organization than just a 360 on Joe alone. So I think we're going to make some pretty good progress on that, and that should have a deadline that comes back around for at a minimum Joe's review. But Joe, when do at least the executive staff get their annual appraisals? What time of the year is that happening?
Right now.
Okay.
So we're scheduling, the supervisors are scheduling their reviews of their staff, and we're scheduling theirs simultaneously.
Okay. So I think we'll look obviously not to do that this year because we're not going to rush through that. But I think it's going to be a really useful process and put it a little bit more formal terms than we have before. So I think that answers the call of what board members have talked about with me. The second thing that has come up year in, year out, especially as we go through Joe's review, is the need to understand that the job descriptions and the position grading of not only Joe relative to the museum community within Virginia and outside of Virginia, but also senior staff gets appropriately reviewed and graded. And so Joe took a strong initiative to reach out to Abby and Joe, and Abby and I are going to have a face-to-face discussion early December in Richmond to start that process. And so we can sort of a rising tide lifts all boats sort of approach to getting the senior organization set first, and then once they've been set, then they can go downstream within the organization and go from there. I guess my biggest concern would be that there would be a gap between the expectation coming out of that meeting in December and the ability to have funds to, once we were able to get any regrading, do we find a way to slot funds into the operating budget somewhere to, to accelerate any required changes? And Joe, you and I haven't even talked about that, so I don't know whether that's a possibility or not in a tight budget world. But
It's, I did have a conversation with DHRM, and basically the short version of the story, they said, what you're saying is what every agency says, it happens all the time,
okay,
right? So, whenever the board makes a request to the appropriate personnel, they're not gonna be taken by surprise, I should
Okay.
say that.
so that should become an incremental request that would be granted downstream.
And that's,
in Richmond.
that's the exact right way to put it,
Yeah.
don't expect everything at once.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, that's good, but I think again, very positive direction to that. The other piece that I wanted to go through is Roberto Quinones shared with and through Joe to the board a report of the AHM on DEI and really dissecting it from a museum's perspective on a broad base of types of museums that would seem to be very heavily weighted towards general history museums rather than natural history, but nonetheless, it ran the gamut of, something like Frontier Culture Museum and also all the way up to the Virginia Museum. So, I mean, I think there were, I can't remember the exact number of museums that were included in it, but it was a useful report to read through. It was well summarized. And I think, I'm looking forward to asking for any feedback during the course of tomorrow's meeting to see if anybody, had any comments or thoughts on it. We had originally placed the responsibility of DEI into the strategic planning committee, I believe, last year. So that's where it would get referred to. And then I think from Roberto's perspective, taking that initiative, he was looking not for this to be so much as just a informational packet, but he really wanted to see us do something about it. And I agree with him, and I know Lisa has shared some comments with him positively as well. And I think this is something we can do. And I would take it personally on my side that I think that maybe we can give up X amount of time, not give up, but allocate, excuse me, X amount of time within a couple of the board meetings to have specific discussions around this subject. And then I think, how do we work with the state to look at the potential nominations of new board members and how we might get them to think a little bit more aggressively about this. I'm not sure how that will be received, but I think it's imperative the board at least maybe sends a document to the secretary that basically says, we think that is an important initiative, and we would like to, request that is a strong consideration as the board gets broader and as people come on and off. So I think it's absolutely the right thing to do, and I think we need to make that a regular part of our discussions. I'm sure that more initiatives will come out of it than just looking for number of board members, but and really opening up the discussion deeper, broader. And I look forward to that. So does anybody have any comments about or thoughts about how we might be a little bit, more proactive in that area? You're muted.
I'm trying to find my comments that I'd sent because I thought there were a couple of suggestions in the report that were really good. I just don't remember what they are. And there were some things I thought that were just no brainers. I just don't recall what they were. I apologize for
that specific comment. There's a lot.
Yeah. I'll find them and resend them to you, Mark and Joe, just to have them for tomorrow's meeting since I won't be there.
All right. I'm pretty sure I've got them right in my machine here, so. Yeah, I'll I've got them, Lisa. I would have kept them.
I found them.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so the thing that I had three things that struck me. One is it's not just diversity in terms of background, but they also talk about diversity of age. That seems to me that we are an older board. That seems to me like something we could totally address. I guess just by asking when we ask for people. But then the comment that I thought was a no-brainer, and I think, Mark, you're already working on this, is trying to get us involved beyond board meetings. And I
Mhm.
think you said you already have a plan for that, of sort of requiring or heavily suggesting that people come to some of the things that VMNH is doing. So I think you're all over that.
Yeah. It's exactly the appeal for tomorrow.
Yeah, and then the last thing is that concept of a board thing itself. I mean, we should just do that. That's a no-brainer to me too.
You have to say that again, Lisa, because it get sort of stuttered out.
Yeah, so one of the things that they recommend is a board self-assessment. Like, what is the board good at? What is the board not good at? Are we following our policies? You know, what could we do better? So kind of like a 360 isn't the right thing, but I mean, like assessing ourselves for performance.
Mhm.
I like that concept.
Yep.
Those were my three big takeaways.
Okay, great. No, I think all three of those are strong, and it probably wouldn't hurt, and not necessarily 360, but I think it wouldn't hurt to have the senior staff, have some say so in that as well on a general basis. So it's obviously a
Yeah, they could assess us. They could tell us.
absolutely.
We could assess ourselves, and they could
Yeah.
assess us. Hey,
Yeah,
That's essentially.
Joe can assess us.
yeah,
They can get together, and if they want it to be they want it to be anonymous, they can just put together a document, or if they don't want it to be anonymous, they can just tell us. But
yeah.
And one thing that I came up at our, when we were in Danville, I believe is to be still correct, but that all boards, we're not 100% giving board. And
Right.
so I think that needs to come, I don't care, I mean, I feel like it would come from you, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to say it, I'll say it, or you say it, it makes no difference to me. I'd rather share the wealth. But yeah, I think we need to be a giving board.
Yeah, well, I definitely support that, and I think, and I've seen this on a number of boards, the chair, that's generally what they do, they just, as a reminder.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
That when we are applying for grants and like tonight,
Yeah.
celebrating
Yeah.
an endowment, it's hard to celebrate. I mean, that's a responsibility, and it's to each person to determine what they can give.
Yeah.
but-
It doesn't matter the size, but I think the participation, and I know it doesn't go unnoticed by staff. I mean, you get really nice letters back, and
Right.
people are appreciative that you're taking the time and effort to do that. So,
And then with the things to do, I think sometimes, Joe, I mean, I really think people just don't know. They don't know, like, I'm not a researcher, so, people don't know what to do. That's not an excuse, but I think, today you mentioned the foundation meeting about the child center and about the pavilion and
Mhm.
providing. I think if you could just, I mean, I don't want to burden you, but just a menu. And there's these 5 events, we'd love for you to come to one.
Yep.
And kind of just, and maybe that's what you're doing, and have a variety of, if you're far away, there's other options, like
Mhm.
just a whole variety of how to contribute beyond the 4 meetings.
Yep.
With the expectation that, to go ahead and mark your calendar for some of these.
Yep. Waynesboro is another really positive thing for people to go to.
Yeah,
It's short, sweet, and gets,
yeah, we've got, we've pulled a lot of that together already, so,
That's great.
and I am listening, I'm
Oh,
literally,
you're fine.
I'm texting staff to.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. I know you have an event coming up.
No,
Oh,
it's about preparing
okay.
for this, yeah.
Right.
And Lisa, thanks for the feedback on age. I mean, I bring that up all the time. Sometimes we go straight to color, race.
yep.
gender. It's very important.
Yeah, and I will say that our average age is going to go down in this meeting because I finally got Emma back in the fold. She's supposed to come tomorrow, so then we.
Good. Good. I just went to a meeting in DC of all young people. I felt so old, but I learned so much from them about what they're thinking and how they're thinking, and it just was really eye-opening. It made me feel ancient, but it also was incredibly helpful. So
I think it's an excellent point. The last couple years, last 3 years, I've been a mentor out of University of Richmond to business students. And forcing yourself to have to go through that and learn and listen. I mean, I'm getting as much from these kids as they're getting
Yep.
from me.
Yep.
And learning how to talk to them, you know,
Yeah.
learning how to communicate with. It's helping me with my own children. So
Yeah.
their children. Great. Okay, that's all good stuff. I don't have Ford's report, so I guess we're gonna be going through that. We can go through that tomorrow, unless somebody has questions about that, but he wasn't, I think he's on a college visit this afternoon, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, congratulations.
Which is what I'm doing tomorrow. So if you need the reason for my absence.
Yeah.
You
got that in advance. Good. All right, I'm gonna pass the floor to the executive director, Mr. Piper.
Sure. To start the fiscal year, we're talking about the first quarter. We had our Bones and Booze event, and attendance was very good. Revenues were strong. So I think staff, myself for that matter, are beginning to see that we're plateauing. In other words, we had logarithmic growth in terms of attendance at our special events, and now we're starting to get the same numbers each year, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a problem. But, we've kind of talked amongst ourselves about, what could we do, if we ever want to grow again. One, we're about at capacity as far as number of people that we can serve in one day. And that includes when we block the parking lot off and set up tents and put activities out there, which Mark saw.
Yeah.
Thank you for attending that. All right, so that's something that we're working on, and we think it's a good argument, to have in terms of any kind of future growth. I know we've talked about, expanding this building, potential of buying a neighboring building, and, other solutions. But as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna have to do something significant to begin to push these numbers up, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So I'm very pleased with what I see so far. As far as major projects, I'll kind of skip around a little bit here. You'll see tonight, for those of you who attend, the pavilion is beginning to take shape. It kind of comes in spurts, so they were going a mile a minute with concrete, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. And I know they say it needs to cure for a number of weeks, so.
It did.
It
It cured.
Yeah. So really what they need to do now is to move on to installing the railings, finish the electric, and then build the stairs out to Oakdale Street down below. After that, we'll install the exhibits, which we have mostly finished manufacturing or otherwise obtaining. So we're moving there. VMNH Waynesboro. We've got the maintenance reserve funds to update the trailer. We have direction to go in terms of obtaining a contractor there. We have about a little over $100,000 to invest. So we should in short order have a scope of work determined. And then from there, we'll proceed with the rehab. It's probably going to be hauled off to a separate location is what I imagine. And it's gonna get worked on there.
Yeah, I was curious because one of the things we had talked about earlier is you're probably gonna put new tires on and stuff like that. Does it make more sense to, let those old tires continue to get old for a little bit? I don't know. I mean, that's something you guys will figure out, but.
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna take recommendations.
Yeah.
And they're gonna put it from the standpoint of a choice. If you do this, here's your pros and cons.
Yeah.
If you do that, here's the pros and cons. So that's the way we're gonna look at that. Really, the big thing that needs updating on that thing is the hydraulics, because we can't close it up right now.
Yeah.
We were able to expand it. When we had to close it to put the wrap on, it wasn't working. I was able to call the former operator. He literally had me underneath sticking a screwdriver into some electrical outlet, you know, to test some
That
things.
does, that's not
But don't-
safe.
Yeah.
No, it was very scary, Lisa.
Don't say that in front of me. Just
No, he
safety first, Joe Kuiper, safety first.
He promised everything was gonna be okay,
Yeah.
so he had all of his fingers and
You know,
arms.
you have to worry about it afterwards.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah. Update on RNC activities. I can't remember what happened when, but just to let you know, Hayden Bassett, continues to grow his program. He is now operating a, remote underwater vehicle.
Oh, cool.
So he's moved into underwater archaeology on top of everything else.
Oh,
So
that's neat.
he's been doing test runs of the, submarine out at Philpott Lake, and the eventual objective is once they're comfortable with its use, they want to go to the Chesapeake Bay, the Atlantic Ocean, where they are going to be looking at near shore submerged Virginia Indian sites. So I'm learning. I wish I could answer questions. I'm learning as I go. This is terra incognita for me.
So I guess a fishing boat is the next thing you're gonna be putting up.
Oh, heck, why not? You know, I don't understand why.
Gotta have something to take it out
Stop
there.
the submarine, you know, the whole fleet. So, so that's going good. Douglas Avenue, we have a tour of that tomorrow. Do me a favor, make sure you say good things to the staff. Everyone who's going over there with you tomorrow,
Yeah.
and put work in over there, right? We all did, and that was in support of buildings and grounds as well as the curators. You know, so it's ready for the next phase of rehab. We already have a scope of work identified. We had to work with the architect. The curators had given them a wish list, and we kind of had to pare it back because it ballooned to a $2 million project. We don't have $2 million.
No.
So we had to, it's long story, but I'm very comfortable with the final scope of work. So they will be going to DEB with the plans here shortly to get approvals. And again, that goes back to upgrading our HVAC, the building envelope, electric and plumbing systems. And so we imagine within a couple of years, we could start to consider that an off-site storage space appropriate for housing collections. So feel good about that. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, we did get our AAM reaccreditation package submitted November
Which
1st,
is
so
huge.
yeah. That's a
Huge.
big thing. So there are, I know I said this in the email, but there still are time for edits. If anyone would like to go through, I've shared the bulk of the report. Everything else that we submitted was basically all of our operational documents, from bylaws to founding documents, policies, and so forth. So the next step is AAM is going to take a few months themselves to go through it, to make sure everything is where it should be. If they feel they need to make recommendations for modification, or maybe they want some updates or whatever, they'll give that to us. Then a site team will come in the March or April timeframe. So Mark, of course, has to be a big part of that, but the entire board, the entire foundation board will be set up with an opportunity to participate. Art has Art's not coming to
Yeah.
this. No, never mind, never mind. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you okay? Are you okay tomorrow with the quorum?
No,
I mean, I can step out into the hall in the middle of the college visit if I need to for a vote or something.
the only thing that we have to vote on, the only thing we would vote on would be approval of minutes.
Yeah.
And the first quarter financials.
That's it.
You know, so that would be basically the end of it. So would you want to try connecting, say, those will be the first things.
We can make it according to your schedule. How about that?
So. if you-
I'll text you guys. I think our first thing is actually at 8:30, so I don't see why I couldn't step out at, like, the meeting starts at 10, right?
Mhm.
I don't see why I couldn't step out like 10 to 10:15 or 10 to 10:20 or something from whatever we're in, and, you know, do something in the hall if that would be okay. I mean, I feel bad doing that, but I can do that.
Abby,
I feel bad for you guys doing that. I don't feel bad for my daughter doing that. It's important I'm there with her, but I don't need to be with her every single second.
And Abby, with Lisa's potential last second addition, does her being in a non-posted area like that, if I'm using the right term, does that violate FOIA?
Well, you need to have a physical quorum present, so her vote can count, but if you don't have a physical
right.
quorum there, then no action can be taken.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, okay,
So, don't worry about it, Lisa.
yeah,
All right. Well, text me if you need me.
will do.
I'll be at JMU.
Okay.
I forget where I left all that off, but, I think those are I've got a little more in-depth, report for the full board, otherwise, I think, we're in good shape. We have the celebration of, the $1 million, endowment milestone, this evening, so, we're looking forward to that. Incidentally, you know, we crunched the numbers, or frankly said, Ryan crunched the numbers. If, you know, that took us 15 years to get to basically a couple of tens of thousands of dollars to, somewhat over $1 million. If for the next 15 years, we grew the endowment at the same pace, which basically is through estate gifts and, proper investment, it should be therefore worth 36 million in another 15 years. So if we just set that as a goal, you know, this museum will, the next generation of workers, board members will kind of be in a brand new day.
Right.
So
Joe,
Well-
what about a celebration for the thing you were just talking about is almost done with the rails?
yeah, we need to schedule that once we see it on the horizon. So we're gonna probably have a soft opening and use it, but then we're gonna have a ribbon cutting with the
Good.
Chamber of Commerce. We're gonna invite all the
Good.
donors.
Good.
And but we just, I mean,
Is that a weekday thing usually?
it would probably be a Friday night.
Maybe we should do it Friday before the February 1st board meeting. Is that first, right?
21st.
First.
Is it first?
I said
It's
first.
February 1st,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
But I don't know if you're gonna be done by then.
Well, that's the problem. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. I'm just not confident that we
Yeah.
can predict. We need to get closer to the end point before we can look over the horizon to a date.
All right.
So-
But I like the concept of doing it at the same time as a board meeting, to maximize attendance. So I don't know when the next one is after that, if that's too late.
Nah, I mean, I'll talk to the staff, to make sure they're comfortable with this, but we can just, you know, use it, like I said, have the soft opening, and then, you know, schedule something properly for May, you know?
Yeah.
And if suddenly like a bunch of workers show up next week and the stairs are almost done, you know, right, then maybe we can go ahead and actually schedule for February. So we'll keep our finger on that pulse.
Something I neglected to say, during, my chair's time, Joe and the team, put together, I believe, was it Jonathan or Ryan that took the lead on the report we went through today?
So we all did, yeah.
Okay, so they took Latala's, report and summarized it down to one page, which is super. And then we went through that in the strategic planning committee today and just made sure we had some additional, discussion about it, and there was next to nothing missing. So, we'll be using that document as, the discussion paper for tomorrow.
We'll have hard copies at everyone's seats, but Jennifer will also be sharing that document if she hasn't already.
Yeah.
So you'll have an electronic
Yeah,
copy
so
of
it's
that.
pretty great overview. You know, there was a lot of good discussion today, in the strategic planning committee, and so, you know, I think that we're on our way, to finalizing that plan and sort of, I guess, what did we say today, May? When did we say?
Okay, so we would normally release our strategic plan publicly in May, because we've just been going May to May from 15 to 20 and now 20 to 25. But let's not forget that we have the AAM visit
Yeah.
in March, April, with the final decision being made in the
Need
summer.
to get it done before.
So the idea, though, is to maybe wait until after the reaccreditation report comes out, because that should also give us recommendations. Even if we get reaccreditation, likely it's going to have recommendations. Hey, you guys should think about this. You know, you still have a problem with that. And these are things that we could include as points within, actionable points within the strategic plan. because we'll have 10 years to resolve anything that's a point of concern. There is no such thing as a reaccreditation success without suggested ways to improve your operation.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want that.
I mean, I've done like, 6 or 7 other institutions, and every time I gave them a laundry list of things, you might just want to look out for.
Yeah.
It's not up to me to police it.
Yeah.
Right, but in the next time in 2035, the staff will have to have shown that they've done things to address any concerns. So I think it would behoove us to maybe wait until the fall to release our strategic plan. So a year from now. It's still 25 to 30, so
Yeah,
some nice
yeah.
round numbers.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, that's great. I didn't have anything else in terms of announcements other than the February 1st date, which we just talked about, and Joe already covered, the Douglas Avenue progress, and,
Right.
and we look forward to seeing that tomorrow. It's been what? It's been over a year since the last time the board walked through there. I mean, I remember going through it. It's been longer than that, hasn't it? Maybe.
I think it was before the new roof was finished.
Yeah. So.
It was when I think I was still chair. I feel like.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry I won't be able to see it. I mean, I sincerely appreciate everything you guys have done to get it fixed up.
The staff we're going over there with, they're gonna be taking some photos. And
Oh,
so
good.
board members will put together a PDF and send them off to everyone.
Oh, excellent.
I have 2 other things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, as far as like the
Yeah.
open discussion part.
Yeah.
The first thing is kind of going along with what Mark was talking about at the beginning of the meeting. I've charged Christie with doing a salary survey of her staff. And I'm just gonna say that, she's got a new staffer starting next month because Terry took a job, went to the classroom. But the new person starts next month, and her salary is $30,000 a year. Right, so
It's not a living wage.
yeah, I've spoke with DHRM again. They're not surprised. They gave recommendations. I passed on to Christie on how to set up the salary survey and so forth. So that's just something else that'll be coming down the line. The second thing I have is Art was wondering if we could have a little initial discussion on an idea that he has. He brought up a good point in that you all drive long distances. Well, maybe you don't, Melanie, but still you're making an investment in time to come to the museum for report outs, right? And while there's nothing wrong with that, Art was wondering if we might want to consider. He said he was going to talk to you, try to catch you before the reception. That if we might consider doing something like submitting a full or partial consent agenda. Rather than walking through all the reports, he basically says we can read it in advance and then ensure that we have enough time, that we have a predetermined objective, that the board can engage in discussion and a strategy session about museum challenges, opportunities, anything along those lines. He'd like to be more engaged without, and he also points out, he wants the board to have an opportunity to be more engaged in problem solving without getting into the staff's day to day.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting approach. It's funny because Cord and I talked about this after, well, I don't know, a couple of us talked about it when we were in Danville after those discussions. And I just think that there's a lot of opportunity there to force some more engagement amongst the board members and to give staff some opportunity to stimulate some ideas as well with us. So I'll talk to Art about it. If it's coming from him, then he can help put it together for us, right?
Yep.
Right. And I know it seems he said he's got more time in his hands, so that's a positive. So we'll see if we can at least come up with some ideas, and then the board can decide how they want to approach it. I mean, it requires the board to be more active and proactive in reading instead of being read to.
It's kind of what I was trying to do with the deep dives, was to pick a topic per meeting and do a deep dive on it, whatever it was. And we kind of did it. We didn't do it to the extent what Art's talking about, but I'm supportive of it conceptually. It's literally what I was trying to do.
Okay. Good, and we're all working in the same direction.
I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
One thing that I've done, same concept, would be if you have the report ahead of time or the data, and then that person, if it's Christie, if it's education, would say, offer a problem, like this is something that keeps me up at night, like,
Right.
this is something I'm just not sure how to, it's something I'm thinking about. And then you have the board and their various areas of expertise, like somehow provide feedback. If it is in fact true that the board comes with resources and ideas and connections, then and I mean, in some ways you do that with the strategic plan and updates, and we've talked a lot about Douglas Avenue.
Yep.
And it had to be the right folks that are okay to open it up, and you know what I mean, but I think, otherwise, if I get the report, I feel like I need to say, great job, and I'm looking for how can I help, but a report doesn't really ask me how, unless it's glaring.
Yeah.
And they're good, like,
Yep.
the data is good. So anyway, if there's a way, sometimes, I don't know, I found it to be successful or helpful to just literally, and these are like smart, folks, but to literally say, this is something I'd love help with.
Right,
Um,
absolutely.
just gotta say it.
Yep,
There has to be a balance though, because people are, I don't mean this in a bad way, but people are, I was gonna say lazy. People are not gonna all read the materials before the meetings. They're just not.
yep,
So there's gotta be a little bit of a balance of at least giving an overview of some of the important stuff and not just focusing on the problem or whatever it is, the issue at hand.
Well,
Oh.
the board is responsible for the finances ultimately.
yep,
So that's something that we could still say include in a standard report out. And I think that's one of the topics that we tend to get a lot of we always get questions about the finances, as it should be.
right, but like, I'll give you an example, data on attendance and things like that, like, I mean, you can talk a trend, and then the details are there for everybody to look through.
Right.
Right, and it's not picking that specifically, it was just something that came to the top of my mind. So, I would like to see that people would take that additional effort. You're talking about an extra hour a quarter, an extra hour, 2 hours a quarter. I think they can do that. Was that it from your side, Joe?
Yes.
I thought one other thing that, so there will probably be looking at additional, based on the participation tomorrow, shuffling committees a little bit, because there's people that haven't been participating in committees, and there's people that have offered, like Lisa, to join committees so I think there may be some need, not to move people from one to another, but add people that can actually get some things done. But it really is gonna depend upon who's here and is willing to volunteer to do that extra work.
Since we're talking about it too, I do get questions not questions, but I get asked for recommendations for future board members. So honestly, I feel a little funny about that. I don't know that I should be looking for my own bosses. I don't mind doing it. I know good people, and I have in the past suggested, there've been people, talked about it and stuff, but if board members know somebody who'd be a good addition, the secretary's office will take the time to basically vet them.
Yeah, because in the next 12 months, we're gonna be losing a few more positions, so for sure. We've got one pending resignation, we'll see how the rest of them go. So, okay.
Are we missing that many people tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's just scheduling, like folks.
I have no idea.
Okay. I mean, can't help some things.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah. It seems like a lot of people had something else going on this weekend.
I guess we didn't give them enough notice.
It was the April notice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, there was nothing different about that. They got at least 6 months notice, if not more. Right. And we purposely moved it back. I think we had it next weekend and we moved it back to this weekend. So it wouldn't infect Thanksgiving week. So. All right, that's all I have for today. So I'm gonna move to adjourn this discussion unless somebody else has something else they want to add. Anything from the OAG?
I have nothing to add. Do you guys, is there anything that I need to be prepared for tomorrow?
I don't think so. No, and in fact, I think based on, we've got a small attendance, it's probably not gonna take the full time, but we'll see.
Well, we have the field trips.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's important. Yeah.
That's gonna add. Yeah, Abby, if you want, we took in that collection of 20,000 bees from DCR, so if you want to help Liberty sort them out.
Sure.
Okay.
I love doing stuff like that. I'll take my little, tweezers or whatever. I actually had a cousin that did a social study on the neurological engagement of bees, and he compared it. He did like this whole comparison to human interactions and bee interaction. Fascinating. Yeah.
It is, and I'm not using the term swarm as in swarm of bees, but just the idea of swarm theory is a whole mathematical field, and it does show that humans and social insects actually show a lot of the same movement behaviors within their society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Everything in life is math when you boil it down.
Before we adjourn, any observations from our observer?
There you go.
I think that's Lauren.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it was just it was really interesting to listen in and neat to hear about all the initiatives and things that are happening. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's very interesting to hear too about the strategic planning and that sort of
Will you
thing.
be with us tomorrow?
I will not be able to join in person, but I will I guess be observing the board during the meeting time. I
Okay,
guess.
good. No, so you'll be able to watch because you'll hear.
Yeah,
You'll get
remotely,
a lot
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And Lauren, we'll just as a courtesy, anything that we would normally send to Abby, I'm sitting there reading the screen. She's all
I'm an
formal.
Abigail. Yeah.
I know you are, right? But anyway, anything that we would send to Abby, we'll just copy you on it, and until we hear different from you that you don't want to receive it anymore.
Yeah, no, sounds great.
Awesome. Okay, so we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Lisa, thanks for getting.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Good luck tomorrow, Lisa.
Okay,
All right,
thank
thanks.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
I'll see you
you,
tomorrow.
Lauren.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Later,
you.
Abby. And,
Nice to meet you.
You too.